May 2nd, 1945. A forest road near Ludwigslust, Mecklenburg. The air smells of pine needles and damp earth, a scent completely overwhelmed by the acrid tang of diesel exhaust in cordite. For 22-year-old Nachkrackenhelferin Lena Voss, the world has shrunk to this narrow ribbon of dirt, churned into mud by the endless retreat. The engine of her unit's Opel Blitz truck groans in protest, a sound that has become the rhythm of their defeat. All around her, the Wehrmacht is dissolving, not fighting, not surrendering, but simply coming apart like wet paper. Men shed their uniforms for civilian clothes, melting into the woods. Officers shout orders, no one follows. The great disciplined war machine is now just a scattered collection of frightened, hungry people trying to get home, or at least get west. They are running from the Soviets. Everyone knows the stories. Everyone is running west. Lena clutches the door of the truck, her knuckles white. Her job, once a point of pride, was to listen, to connect, to relay the precise commands that kept the front line coherent. Now there is no front line. There is only noise, a constant, low rumble that is not thunder. It is the sound of the enemy. It has been getting louder for days. Her headset lies useless on the seat beside her, the wire frayed. There is nothing to listen to but chaos. The driver, a boy named Klaus with eyes that look 100 years old, keeps glancing at the sky. They all do. The Jabos, the Allied fighter bombers, own the sky. They hunt anything that moves. A horse-drawn cart lies splintered in a ditch beside the road, its former occupants still and silent under a blanket of dust. Lena forces herself not to look. Then the sound changes. The low rumble deepens into a metallic clatter, a rhythmic, earth-shaking tread that vibrates up through the soles of her boots. It is not their sound. It is not a Panzer. Klaus slams on the brakes. The truck skids to a halt, its engine sputtering out into a terrifying silence. Ahead, around a bend in the road, it appears. Low, wide, and olive drab. A white star painted on its hull. A Sherman tank. Then another, and another. Behind them, men in unfamiliar helmets fan out into the trees, their rifles held at the ready. Americans. There is no heroic last stand. There is not even a command to surrender. There is only the collective, unspoken realization that the journey is over. Men drop their rifles. They raise their hands slowly, their faces etched with a profound weariness that transcends fear. Klaus slumps over the steering wheel, his shoulders shaking. Lena remains frozen in her seat. Her gray-blue Luftwaffe Helferin uniform, once a symbol of her contribution, of her belonging, now feels like a target. She had believed the propaganda, that they were the bulwark against the Bolshevik hordes, the defenders of European civilization. She had typed the communiques, patched through the calls, heard the confident voices of her commanders. Where are they now? The truck door is wrenched open. A young American soldier, his face smeared with camouflage paint, looks up at her. He cannot be much older than she is. He says something in English, the words sharp and alien. He gestures with the barrel of his M1 rifle. Out. Now. Lena's hands tremble as she climbs down. Her feet touch the ground, and for the first time, she feels like a prisoner. She is lined up with the others on the side of the road. Another soldier, an officer with stripes on his helmet, moves down the line, collecting identity papers, paybooks, and personal effects. When he reaches Lena, he pauses, looking at her uniform, then at her face. He asks her a question in broken German. Rank, unit. She tells him. Signals Auxiliary, 3rd Flak Division. He nods, taking her sold book, her entire official existence, and tossing it into a canvas bag. Without it, she is nobody, just another face in the crowd of the vanquished. They are marched away from the road, away from their vehicles, deeper into the forest. The American tanks rumble past, continuing their push eastward, barely glancing at the ragged column of captives they leave in their wake. Lena does not look back. There is nothing to see but the end of a world. June 12, 1945. Prisoner of war enclosure number 109, near Munster, British zone of occupation. The journey ended here, in a sprawling camp of long wooden barracks surrounded by a double fence of barbed wire. The world of frantic retreat and sudden capture has been replaced by a new reality, one defined by monotony and the slow, grinding passage of time. Camp 109 is a repurposed Wehrmacht Kaserne, its parade ground now a muddy field, its stables and halls converted into holding pens for the human debris of the Third Reich. Lena Voss is now just a number, 743. Her life is governed by bells, by roll calls, by the queuing for thin soup and hard bread. The initial shock has given way to a dull, persistent ache of loss. Loss of freedom, of purpose, of a future she once took for granted. She shares a barracks with 50 other women. They are a cross-section of the Reich's female auxiliaries, Luftwaffe Helferinnen like herself, Red Cross nurses, administrators from the SS hierarchy, and even a few stern-faced Aufseherinnen, female guards from the camps, though they rarely speak of their former duties. In this strange, suspended existence, old hierarchies have dissolved, replaced by a shared identity of defeat. They spend their days mending clothes, reading the few tattered books that circulate, and talking. They talk endlessly. They speak of home, of families scattered by the chaos. They speak of the injustice of it all. They tell stories of Allied bombers leveling their cities, of women and children burned alive in Dresden and Hamburg. They whisper rumors of the Red Army's brutal advance from the east. In their narratives, they are the victims. They, the German people, are the true sufferers of this war. The atrocities of their own regime are dismissed as enemy propaganda, lies, exaggerations, the work of Jewish propagandists in London and New York. Lena listens to it all. She wants to believe it. It is easier to believe it. To accept that the horrors attributed to their nation are true would be to accept that everything she worked for, everything her brother died for on the Eastern Front, was a monstrous lie. And so a collective denial takes root in the damp, crowded barracks. A fragile consensus built on rumor, resentment, and a desperate need to preserve some sliver of national pride. They were soldiers, they tell each other. They did their duty. They were honorable. But lately, something has shifted. The British Guards, usually impassive and professional, have a new look in their eyes, a cold contempt. And there is activity in the camp. In the large, cavernous mess hall where they take their meager meals, a team of Royal Engineers has been at work. They have fastened thick blackout cloths over the high windows, plunging the hall into a perpetual twilight. They have erected a large white screen at one end, and yesterday they brought in a strange machine on a tripod, a metal box with lenses and reels, trailing thick black cables, a film projector. The rumors start immediately, spreading through the barracks like a fever. What is it for? Are they being documented for show trials? Is it some new form of psychological torment? An older woman, a former administrator from Berlin, insists it is a re-education program. They want to fill our heads with their democratic nonsense, she spits, her voice full of scorn. As if we would ever believe their lies. The sentiment is widely shared. They will resist. They will sit in stony silence, a wall of German defiance. This afternoon, the waiting ends. A British sergeant major, a man with a weathered face and a voice like gravel, throws open the barracks door. He holds a clipboard. He does not shout. He speaks in a low, flat tone that allows for no argument. The following numbers, on your feet. You will proceed in an orderly fashion to the mess hall. Attendance is compulsory. He begins to read the numbers. 718, 722, 743. Lena's number. A cold knot tightens in her stomach. She gets to her feet, her boots scraping on the wooden floor. She exchanges a glance with the woman in the next bunk, a nurse named Anka. Anka's face is pale, but her chin is set in a look of grim resolve. They file out of the barracks and into the pale afternoon light, joining a long column of gray uniformed women shuffling silently across the muddy parade ground. They are marching not toward a battlefield, but toward a darkened room, a white screen, and an unknown truth waiting to be unveiled. The silence is absolute, heavy with a shared, unspoken dread. The mess hall is colder than the barracks. The blackout cloths have trapped the damp chill of the stone walls, and the air is thick with the lingering smells of boiled turnips and disinfectant. The women are herded inside by British military police, their boots echoing on the concrete floor. The long trestle tables where they eat have been pushed against the walls, creating rows of hard, backless benches facing the white screen. It looms at the far end of the hall like a blank, waiting canvas. Lena is pushed along in the shuffling crowd and finds a place on a bench near the middle, flanked by other women from her barracks. They huddle together, a silent show of solidarity. No one speaks. The only sounds are coughs, the rustle of clothing, and the steady, intimidating presence of the guards posted at the exits. You can feel the defiance in the air. It's a palpable thing, a collective stiffening of spines. These women have endured bombing raids, forced marches, and the collapse of their nation. They will not be broken by a lecture or a propaganda film. Lena sets her jaw, mimicking the hard expressions of the women around her. They will watch whatever the British want to show them, and it will mean nothing. They will remain untouched. At the front of the hall near the projector stands a British officer. He is a captain, his uniform impeccably pressed. He looks young, with a tidy mustache and weary eyes that seem to have seen too much. This is Captain Davies, a name the women have heard whispered. He is attached to the Psychological Warfare Division. He waits patiently until all the women are seated and the hall falls silent. Then he steps forward. He does not stand on a platform. He stands on their level. He holds no notes. He looks out over the sea of faces, his gaze sweeping across them without malice, but with an unnerving seriousness. He speaks in clear, unaccented German. His voice is calm, almost academic, which is somehow more unsettling than if he had shouted. Meine Damen, he begins, you are here today for the purposes of enlightenment, Aufklärung. For many years, you have been shown a certain version of the world. Today, you will be shown another. He pauses, letting the word hang in the cold air. Enlightenment. It sounds so clinical, so detached. He gestures toward the projector. What you are about to see is not a work of fiction. It is not propaganda. It is a factual record, filmed by British and American Army cameramen in recent weeks. Nothing has been staged. Nothing has been falsified. A low murmur ripples through the women. A scoff here, a muttered "Luga" there. Captain Davies ignores it. He gives a crisp nod to the soldier manning the projector. The soldier throws a switch. The overhead lights in the hall click off, plunging them into a thick, disorienting darkness. A moment later, the projector whirs to life. The sound is shockingly loud in the silent room, a mechanical, clattering heartbeat. A brilliant, harsh beam of light shoots out over their heads, cutting a cone through the darkness, illuminating millions of dancing dust motes. It hits the screen, forming a flickering, empty white rectangle. Lena squints, her eyes adjusting to the sudden contrast. The defiance she felt moments ago is beginning to fray, replaced by a raw, nervous anticipation. The clatter of the machine is hypnotic, relentless. It feels like the ticking of a clock, counting down to something terrible. Then the first images appear. They are grainy, unsteady, and black and white. A title card, stark and simple, fills the screen. It contains a single abbreviation, one they all know but have been trained to think of in a certain way, KZ, Konzentrationslager. A collective, sharp intake of breath sweeps through the hall. The film does not begin with horrors. It begins with something almost mundane. The camera pans slowly across a picturesque German town. Tidy houses with flower boxes, a woman hanging laundry, a man cycling down a cobblestone street. It looks like any town. It looks like home. The camera continues to pan, moving past the last of the houses, across a field of green grass. And then it stops. On a fence. A high, wire fence with stark wooden watchtowers. The film is showing them what was just beyond the edge of town, what lay just past the pleasant, ordinary lives of the German citizens on screen. The familiar world is on one side of the fence. On the other is something else entirely. The bucolic images of the German town vanish, cut abruptly to a new scene. The camera is now moving. It is handheld, jostling and unsteady, as if the man holding it is walking through hell and cannot keep his hands from shaking. The view is from behind a British Army truck as it pushes down a pair of massive wooden gates. The name is painted on a sign above, Bergen-Belsen. The name means nothing to Lena. It is just a place. But as the camera moves inside the compound, the air in the mess hall seems to turn to ice. The initial defiance of the women evaporates, replaced by a stunned, horrified silence. On the screen, the ground is littered not with rubble or debris, but with human bodies. They are everywhere, piled like firewood against the sides of barracks, lying tangled in the mud. They are not the bodies of soldiers fallen in battle. They are skeletons draped in skin that is stretched like parchment over their bones. Their eyes are hollowed out sockets in skulls, their mouths agape in silent screams. At first, it is impossible to process. The scale of it is beyond comprehension. It must be a trick, a clever manipulation of images. A woman near the front, a stern-faced SS Helferin named Ilse, jumps to her feet. "Propaganda!" she shrieks, her voice cracking with a frantic edge of hysteria. "Lies! This is not real!" Captain Davis does not move. He does not speak. He simply lets the film continue to roll. The whir of the projector is the only reply, merciless and constant. The camera pushes deeper into the camp. It finds the living, and the sight is somehow worse than the dead. Figures in striped rags wander aimlessly. They are the Muselmänner, the walking corpses. They turn to look at the camera, their faces blank, their eyes devoid of all light, of all hope. They are human beings who have been hollowed out from the inside. They are nothing but suffering. You are forced to look into those eyes. You cannot turn away. In the mess hall, the first sob breaks the silence. It is a raw, strangled sound. Then another, and another. Soon, the room is filled with the sound of weeping. A woman in the row behind Lena begins to vomit, the sound of her retching violent in the dark. The camera is relentless. It pans across a vast open pit in the earth. A British bulldozer is at the edge, its blade lowered, pushing a mountain of emaciated corpses into the pit. The bodies tumble over each other, a waterfall of limbs and torsos falling into the mass grave with a sickening, silent finality. Lena's hands fly to her mouth, but she cannot stifle the cry that escapes. Her mind is screaming. This cannot be Germany. Germans do not do this. We are a people of poets and thinkers. We are civilized. We are honorable. But the images on the screen are irrefutable. They are not actors. They are not fakes. This is real. This happened. The Allied cameraman focuses on small details. A pile of eyeglasses, a mountain of human hair, a warehouse filled with suitcases, names and addresses from all over Europe still carefully painted on their sides. And then the image that shatters Lena completely, a pile of shoes, thousands upon thousands of them, children's shoes, tiny boots, worn leather sandals, small formal shoes for a party. On the very top of the heap sits a single, small red shoe with a broken strap. It is almost identical to the one Lena's younger sister Greta wore before she was killed in an air raid 2 years ago. The intellectual argument, the political justification, the carefully constructed wall of denial, it all dissolves in an instant. This is not about politics. This is not about war. This is about a small red shoe. It is about the child who wore it. A sob tears its way from deep inside her, a sound of such profound agony that it feels like it is ripping her apart. The Germany she loved, the cause she served, the uniform she wore with pride, it was all in service of this. This unimaginable, unforgivable sin. The women around her are no longer a defiant block. They are a collection of broken individuals, each trapped in her own private hell, their faces illuminated by the flickering, unbearable light from the screen. The film ends. The projector sputters. The bright rectangle on the screen shrinks to a pinpoint of light, and then it is gone. The room is plunged into absolute, profound darkness. And in that blackness, there is nothing but the sound of weeping. For a long moment, there is only the darkness and the sound. The raw, ragged chorus of grief, shame, and despair fills the cavernous hall. The mechanical clatter of the projector is gone, and its absence leaves a ringing silence, a vacuum into which the full weight of what they have witnessed now descends. The women do not move. They are frozen on their benches, hunched over, their faces buried in their hands. They are no longer prisoners of the British. They are prisoners of the images now burned forever onto their minds. Then, with a loud metallic clang, the overhead lights are switched on. The sudden, harsh glare is a physical blow. It is merciless, exposing everything. The tear-streaked faces, the eyes red and swollen, the pale, shocked expressions. They blink against the light like creatures disturbed in a cave, suddenly stripped of the darkness that had hidden their anguish. They look at one another, truly look, perhaps for the first time. The camaraderie of the barracks, built on a foundation of shared denial, is gone. In its place is a terrible new awareness, a silent, shared accusation. Did you know? Did you suspect? Why did we not know? Captain Davies still stands at the front of the room. He has not moved. His face is impassive, a mask of professional duty. He offers no words of comfort, no lecture, no condemnation. He does not need to. The film has done its work. This is the core of the Aufklärung program, not to persuade with words, but to shatter with truth. He allows the silence to stretch, to become heavy and unbearable. He is letting them sit in the wreckage of their worldview. Finally, he gives a quiet, sharp command to the sergeant major. Dismiss them. The guards move to open the doors. The women rise slowly, stiffly, like old women. They do not speak, they do not look at each other. They file out of the mess hall in a silence more profound than any they have ever known. Back in the barracks, the atmosphere is irrevocably changed. The air, once filled with defiant chatter and resentful whispers, is now thick with a suffocating, sorrowful quiet. The women retreat to their bunks, turning their faces to the wall. Ilse, the SS Helferin who had screamed lies, lies curled in a tight ball, her body racked with silent, convulsive sobs. Anka, the nurse, sits on the edge of her cot, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles are white, staring at a spot on the floor as if trying to understand a problem for which there is no solution. Lena lies on her own bunk, her gaze fixed on the rough wooden slats of the bed above. The images from the film play on a loop behind her eyes. The skeletal faces, the bulldozer, the small red shoe. The concept the British called collective guilt, Kollektivschuld, had seemed like a ridiculous accusation just this morning, an unfair attempt to blame everyone for the crimes of a few. Now, it feels like a physical weight pressing down on her chest, making it difficult to breathe. She had been a part of the machine. A small cog, yes, but a cog nonetheless. Her signals had guided the night fighters. Her reports had tracked enemy bombers. She had done her duty. But her duty was in service to a regime that built factories for the sole purpose of murdering children. The pride she once felt in her uniform has curdled into a deep, sickening shame. Across Germany, in other camps, in cinemas, in bombed-out cities, this scene is being repeated. It is a deliberate, calculated psychological campaign designed to force a nation to confront its own capacity for evil, to cauterize a wound by burning it with the truth. For Lena Voss, and for millions like her, the war did not end on May 8th with the formal surrender. The war ended today, in a cold, dark room. It ended with the death of an idea, the collapse of a belief system. What will rise from its ashes is uncertain. There is no clear path forward. There is only this terrible new knowledge, this inescapable guilt. The crying in the barracks has subsided now, replaced by a silence that will linger for days, for weeks, for the rest of their lives.